Marco Duca was a man who wore his emotions openly. At the age of 29, he had established a modest career as a freelance photographer, where his art was intertwined with his existence. Through his lens, he discovered significance in the ephemeral beauty of life's moments, whether it was the beaming smile of a bride, the laughter of a child, or the serene elegance of a sunset. Marco captured the essence of life with a poetic sensitivity. However, his personal life was markedly different. Raised by Marco Isabella's efforts profoundly influenced him, instilling a deep sense of loyalty and love. He was determined to create a life that would provide the stability his mother had always envisioned. Marco's passion extended beyond his profession. When he fell in love with Liana, it transcended mere affection. It became a devotion. She was his muse, the focal point of his dreams and aspirations. In her presence, the world appeared more vibrant, and he envisioned a future where their love would serve as the foundation for something beautiful and lasting. Yet, Marco's intensity, while romantic, also rendered him vulnerable. He was unaware that his love for Liana would soon lead him down a path filled with heartbreak and vengeance. At 26, Liana Harper embodied charm and beauty. Her dark, almond-shaped eyes seemed to conceal secrets, and her radiant smile could disarm even the most guarded individuals. To those who knew her casually, she was a kind and ambitious woman. Liana harbored aspirations for a more prosperous existence, yet her ambitions were far more strategic than mere daydreams. Born in a modest town to parents who labored incessantly to make ends meet, she grew up with a keen awareness of the struggles associated with financial hardship. Her father, a mechanic, and her mother, a waitress, instilled in her a robust work ethic, accompanied by a profound apprehension of economic instability. From an early age, Liana resolved that she would not endure the same adversities her parents faced. As she matured, she quickly recognized that her beauty could serve as a significant advantage. Throughout her late teens and early 20s, she adeptly utilized her charm to navigate various social circles, always on the lookout for opportunities to ascend the social hierarchy. Upon meeting Marco, she was captivated by his passion and creativity. He treated her with the utmost affection, showering her with love and attention. However, as their relationship progressed, Liana began to perceive Marco more as a means to an end rather than a true partner. Her ambitions extended beyond him. She yearned for luxury, stability, and a lifestyle that Marco, despite his best efforts, could not provide. Then, fate intervened, introducing her to Tyrone. At the age of 31, Tyrone Bennett stood on the brink of transformative success. A talented software developer, he had recently secured a contract with a tech company that promised to make him a millionaire within a year. Tyrone embodied confidence and stability. Raised in a nurturing and loving environment, he possessed a strong moral compass, valuing hard work and the significance of authentic relationships. His parents had enjoyed a marriage lasting over 3 decades, serving as a testament to the values he held dear. An illustration of love and commitment that Tyrone sought to replicate occurred when Tyrone encountered Liana at a mutual friend's gathering. He was instantly enchanted. She appeared to be unlike the women he typically encountered, charming, grounded, and genuinely interested in his aspirations and dreams. Liana skillfully portrayed herself as the ideal partner, listening attentively as Tyrone shared his ambitions, family values, and future vision. Unbeknownst to Tyrone, Liana's authenticity was merely a fade. She perceived in him the stability and affluence she desired, and was resolute in her intention to claim him at any cost. For several months, Liana adeptly balanced her relationships with Marco and Tyrone. With Marco, she upheld the illusion of a devoted girlfriend, while with Tyrone, she meticulously crafted a narrative of a woman who had long awaited a man like him. However, as Tyrone's business deal approached completion, Liana's priorities began to shift. She started to distance herself from Marco, canceling plans and evading his calls. Marco, who had always been sensitive to Liana's emotional state, sensed that something was amiss. He initially dismissed his concerns, convincing himself that she was merely preoccupied. Yet, as the weeks progressed, her excuses grew increasingly tenuous, and her absence became more evident. One evening, after weeks of avoidance, Marco resolved to confront Liana. He invited her to his apartment, hoping to rekindle the spark in their relationship. However, upon her arrival, her demeanor was frigid and detached. "What is happening, Liana?" Marco inquired, his voice laced with desperation. "You have been acting so distant. Is there someone else?" Liana hesitated, her gaze momentarily shifting away from Marco. For a brief moment, she contemplated fabricating a story, but ultimately resolved that it was time to sever their connection. "Marco," she began, her voice steady yet emotionless, "you are a wonderful person, but I require more. I need stability. I need a future." Marco's heart plummeted. "I thought I was your future," he replied, his voice trembling. Liana met his eyes, her expression inscrutable. "You will understand someday," she stated before exiting, leaving Marco in a state of shock. In the days that followed, Marco was engulfed by sorrow, replaying their conversation repeatedly in an attempt to comprehend what had transpired. He struggled to accept that the woman he had cherished so deeply could so easily cast him aside. However, as the anguish began to fade, it was supplanted by anger. Marco started to view Liana not as the love of his life, but as a manipulator who had exploited his affections and discarded him. His heartbreak morphed into a fierce desire for retribution. One night, in a fit of rage and desperation, Marco sent Liana a message. "You will regret this, Liana, mark my words." Unfazed, Liana blocked Marco on all platforms, changed her phone number, and erased him from her existence. Meanwhile, she continued to portray the image of the perfect partner to Tyrone, crafting a narrative of innocence and loyalty that he readily accepted. Yet, Marco was unwilling to relinquish his feelings. His love for Liana had transformed into an obsession, propelling him to extreme measures. As weeks turned into months, following Marco's warning, Liana fully embraced her new life as Tyrone's fiancée. Her days became a whirlwind of opulent dinner parties and wedding preparations. Marco had exchanged his simple apartment and spontaneous coffee outings with Liana for Tyrone's expansive residence and exquisite dining experiences. Tyrone was enamored with her, lavishing her with gifts such as a diamond necklace for her birthday, a brand new car when she casually mentioned her old one was malfunctioning, and an extravagant vacation simply because he believed she deserved a respite. Liana reveled in the attention, while deftly maintaining her carefully constructed narrative of being Tyrone's first and only true love. In the months that followed Liana's betrayal, Marco endured a harrowing experience. He attempted to move forward by immersing himself in photography and spending time with friends, yet nothing could fill the emptiness she had left behind. Each time he witnessed a couple holding hands or a bride walking down the aisle, he was reminded of his loss and the deceit that had shattered him. Marco's heartbreak morphed into a perilous obsession. He began to follow Liana on social media through a fake account, piecing together her new life with Tyrone. Each post felt like a stab to his heart, a photo of Tyrone placing an engagement ring on Liana's finger, a video of them sharing laughter at a party, a caption proclaiming "my forever." As Marco delved deeper into his fixation, he uncovered details about Tyrone's forthcoming wedding, scheduled to be held at a lavish venue in downtown Atlanta. boasting a guest list of over 200 attendees. Liana had spared no expense, ensuring her wedding would be the talk of the town. It was during one of these late-night surveillance sessions that Marco conceived a plan to reveal Liana's true nature as a deceiver. He recalled the numerous intimate moments had been shared between them, many of which he had documented with his camera. Among these was a video that was raw, unfiltered, and damning. Marco understood that if he were to play this video at Liana's wedding, her carefully crafted facade would shatter. This thought filled him with a perverse sense of satisfaction. He was indifferent to the repercussions. His sole desire was for Liana to experience the same humiliation and betrayal he had suffered. As the wedding day drew near, Liana was enveloped in excitement, dedicating her days to meetings with florists, sampling cakes, and attending dress fittings. Tyrone, who had little interest in the intricate details, willingly allowed Liana to take charge. One evening, while they were together reviewing the guest list, Tyrone looked at Liana and remarked, "You are truly remarkable. I have never encountered someone so committed." Liana beamed, leaning into his embrace, and replied, "I just want everything to be perfect," her voice as sweet as honey. However, as Tyrone kissed her forehead and returned his attention to the list, Liana's smile wavered. In the recesses of her mind, Marco's warning loomed like a dark cloud. She dismissed the thought, assuring herself that she had completely removed him from her life. Unbeknownst to Liana, Marco had spent weeks orchestrating this moment. He had successfully obtained an invitation to the wedding by masquerading as a +1 for another guest. His plan was straightforward yet devastating. He intended to substitute the wedding slideshow with the incriminating video and revel in the chaos as Liana's world collapsed. The morning of the wedding arrived, adorned with all the grandeur Liana had envisioned, the venue a magnificent ballroom. The venue, embellished with crystal chandeliers and flowing floral displays, reflected her careful planning. As guests began to arrive in their finest garments, their animated conversations filled the air with a sense of anticipation. Liana, adorned in a stunning white gown, stood in the bridal suite, surrounded by her bridesmaids who were adjusting her veil and bouquet. Despite the joyous atmosphere, she felt a slight twinge of anxiety, which she attributed to typical pre-wedding nerves, choosing instead to immerse herself in the moment. Meanwhile, Tyrone stood with his groomsmen, adjusting his cufflinks and sharing jokes to mask his own apprehension, blissfully unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. Marco arrived early, seamlessly integrating into the crowd in a well-fitted suit, embodying the role of a typical guest. He carried a small USB drive containing a video that would alter everything. As the ceremony commenced, Marco positioned himself near the tech booth where the audiovisual equipment was set up for the wedding slideshow. The tech crew, preoccupied with last-minute adjustments, paid little attention as Marco subtly replaced the original slideshow file with his own. The ceremony unfolded smoothly, with Liana and Tyrone exchanging vows, their voices quivering with emotion, while guests wiped away tears at the couple's heartfelt declaration of love. However, Marco remained unmoved, feeling only a chilling, simmering rage as he observed Liana pledge herself to Tyrone. The reception commenced with laughter and joy, guests mingling and the sound of clinking champagne glasses punctuating their conversations, creating a vibrant atmosphere. A celebration of love and new beginnings took a dramatic turn when the moment everyone had anticipated arrived, the wedding slideshow. As the lights dimmed and the first images flickered onto the screen, an expectant hush enveloped the room. The slideshow commenced with innocent childhood photographs of Liana and Tyrone, followed by tender moments from their courtship. However, as the presentation progressed, the tone shifted abruptly. The screen now showcased an intimate video featuring Liana and Marco, their identities unmistakable with audio that left no ambiguity regarding the nature of their relationship. Gasps reverberated through the room as guests turned to Liana, whose complexion had drained of color. Tyrone, seated beside her, stared at the screen in disbelief. "Turn it off," Liana cried, her voice cracking under the weight of her distress. The technical crew hurried to comply, but the damage had already been inflicted. Tyrone rose from his seat, his expression a tumult of shock and betrayal. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice low and trembling. Liana reached out to him, but he recoiled, raising his hands in a defensive gesture. "Don't touch me," he replied, his tone icy. Marco, positioned at the back of the room, observed the unfolding chaos with a grim sense of satisfaction. His objective had been achieved. The grand ballroom, once filled with joy and celebration, now resonated with turmoil. Liana's world disintegrated before her eyes as guests murmured, exchanged horrified glances, and even began recording the scene on their phones. Tyrone, paralyzed in place, became the epicenter of the storm, the betrayal he had just witnessed gnawing at his very soul, replacing his love for Liana with a surge of anger and humiliation. His chest heaved as he struggled to process the unfolding nightmare. As he struggled to control his emotions, Tyrone's agitation was evident. In contrast, Liana was frantic, seeking to mend the situation. "Tyrone, please listen to me," she implored, tears streaming down her cheeks as she reached out to him. "It's not what it seems. It's not what it seems." Tyrone's voice dripped with venom, his anger barely restrained. "That was you, wasn't it? Or is this yet another one of your deceptions?" "I can explain," Liana cried, her voice breaking. "Explain what, Liana?" Tyrone retorted, his tone rising. "That you've been deceiving me all along? That you are nothing but a fraud?" The tension in the room was thick, and the guests shifted uncomfortably, uncertain whether to intervene or allow the couple to resolve their issues in private. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Liana grasped Tyrone's arm and pulled him toward a secluded room adjacent to the ballroom. "Please, Tyrone, we need to talk," she pleaded. He permitted her to guide him, though his movements were rigid, his body language betraying his reluctance. Once inside, Liana closed the door and leaned against it, as if blocking out the outside world could somehow reverse the damage. "Tyrone, I swear I never intended for this to happen," she began, her voice quivering. "Marco is just... he's from my past. He's obsessed with me, and I didn't know how to tell you. Your past," Tyrone's voice was icy. "You told me I was your first love, that there was no one before me. Now I discover you've been involved with someone else, and worse, that he has this kind of leverage over you." Liana's composure faltered. "I lied because I was terrified of losing you." "You are everything I have ever wanted, Tyrone. Marco means nothing to me, I promise." He laughed bitterly, questioning whether she could even hear herself. "You lied, Liana, time and again, and you made me appear foolish before everyone I know." "Please, Tyrone," she whispered, stepping closer. "I love you." "Do not utter that to me," he retorted, stepping back, his eyes that once held affection now filled with revulsion. As the argument intensified, Tyrone turned toward the door, resolute. "I am finished, Liana. This wedding is over." "No," Liana cried, desperation lacing her voice as she grasped his arm. "You cannot abandon me like this." "Release me," Tyrone shouted, his anger surging. Liana clung to him, her nails digging into his sleeve. "Tyrone, please, I can make this right." "I will do anything." Fueled by rage and humiliation, Tyrone forcefully yanked his arm free, more violently than he intended. Liana stumbled backward, her heels catching on the edge of the carpet. Time seemed to slow as she lost her balance and fell toward the staircase behind her. "Liana!" Tyrone screamed, reaching out too late. Her body struck the stairs with a sickening thud, her head snapping back as it collided with the edge of a step. She tumbled down the staircase, coming to rest in a lifeless heap, blood pooling beneath her head and staining the pristine white carpet. For a moment, silence enveloped the scene. Tyrone stood frozen at the top of the stairs, his mind grappling with the enormity of what had just transpired. Then, the realization struck him like a freight train. "No," he whispered, his voice breaking. "No, no, no." He rushed down the stairs, collapsing beside Liana's still form. Her once vibrant eyes stared blankly at the ceiling, and her body lay unnaturally twisted. Tyrone's hands trembled as he cradled her head, tears cascading onto her lifeless face. "I didn't mean to," he sobbed. "I never intended for this to happen." Chaos from the ballroom had spilled into the hallway as guests hurried to witness the unfolding tragedy. Gasps and murmurs filled the air as they absorbed the horrific scene. Someone called 911, and within minutes, police and paramedics arrived. Tyrone remained kneeling beside Liana, offering no resistance as officers pulled him to his feet.
His hands and suit were stained with blood, and his expression reflected utter devastation. "She's dead," he whispered, his voice hollow. "I killed her." An officer gently guided him away, his tone calm yet firm. "Sir, we need you to come with us." As Tyrone was led out of the venue in handcuffs, the once joyous atmosphere of the wedding was overshadowed by an overwhelming sense of tragedy. Meanwhile, Marco had slipped away amidst the turmoil, observing from a distance as the police flooded the venue, a satisfied smirk on his face. In his mind, justice had been served, Liana had paid for her betrayal, and Tyrone had been spared a lifetime of deceit. However, Marco's revenge came at a significant cost. He understood he could not return to his former life. The video he had played was his calling card, and it would not be long before authorities traced it back to him. That night, Marco boarded a bus to a distant city, leaving behind the life he once knew. Tyrone's trial became a media sensation, with the prosecution portraying him as a man consumed by jealousy and rage, while the defense contended that Liana's death was a tragic accident. Witnesses testified to the palpable tension. On the day of the wedding between Tyrone and Liana, the video presented by Marco was admitted as evidence, despite its incriminating content. Ultimately, Tyrone's sincere remorse and previously unblemished record worked to his advantage. He was convicted of manslaughter and received a 5-year prison sentence. The judge recognized that although Liana's death was not intentional, Tyrone's actions had directly contributed to the tragic outcome. During his incarceration, Tyrone spent his time in quiet reflection on the decisions that led to that tragic day. In contrast, Marco remained at large, with his whereabouts unknown. The narrative involving Liana, Tyrone, and Marco evolved into a cautionary tale, illustrating the devastating effects of deceit, betrayal, and uncontrolled emotions. In the end, no one emerged victorious. Tyrone lost the woman he loved, Marco lost the object of his obsession, and Liana lost her life, all due to a web of deceit that spiraled beyond control.